A familiar face in a complex investigation. Lieutenant Ray Hermosillo with Rexburg Police in Idaho taking the stand against convicted killer Lori Vallow Daybell. His role in her prior murder convictions is a major piece of this bizarre saga. Now as she represents herself in court, accused of trying to have her former nephew-in-law killed, Hermosillo has serious evidence on the alleged shooter, Alex Cox. The jury taking it all in on day 4 of trial. I'm Justin Lum, and we are on the record. A very busy day in court for the so-called Doomsday Mom, Lori Vallow Daybell, especially for the prosecution, bringing in some key witnesses, experts who know this case inside and out. But first, we start with Ryan Pillar, Gilbert police officer, whose testimony has really spanned in segments across 3 days. He finishes strong today after a lengthy cross-exam by Lori Daybell.
Yeah, maybe her lengthiest cross-exam, going over, all sorts of details in his investigation, a lot of objections, obviously, from the state, a lot of sidebars this morning because of,
And not short sidebars either.
No,
multiple sidebars too.
They are, and we talked about it with our panel today. Like, does that resonate with the jury? Do they notice it? Do they see, body language of this? Because, again, Lori's trying to find an avenue to poke a hole in at least Gilbert's investigation and looking for ways to, find a way to convince the jury, look, maybe there was, maybe they missed things in their investigation. Maybe they missed some things at the scene of the day of the shooting that would have, exonerated her at all. Remember, this is a conspiracy charge. They're not accusing her of being the person in the Jeep pulling the trigger. So she spent a lot of time with him, maybe a little overkill, maybe stalling for whatever reason. But again, the jury got a lot from him over the last 2 days.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting that the questions that came out were sort of condescending on the part of Lori Daybell. She does this with police witnesses, questioning how they investigate, how they test, and I get it, she's her own defense attorney, so she's trying to poke holes in their side of the story and how they came to the probable cause that she needed to face charges for this conspiracy to commit murder. But I don't know how the jury sees that, but definitely Ryan Pillar on the stand talking about the Tesla being shot at and the trajectory. He didn't have those specific answers for her that she was looking for, but it's also like those are hard details to come up with when so much is happening at a scene and you don't exactly know where the Tesla is and the Jeep was parked.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. She questioned them about, would you ordinarily just give the vehicle back right after that? Like, why wouldn't you keep it impounded? Why wouldn't you spend more time on it? Now, I'm guessing had somebody died or been, seriously injured in this shooting, they probably would have kept the vehicle a little bit longer. And
he said that, yeah.
Right. So, kudos to her on that part, because that a jury, may be looking at that and going, yeah, that seems rather quick in an investigation. But, She kind of only touched on it a little bit, moved on. We heard the jury ask a few questions after, after his testimony.
We've been wondering when the questions would come. We started seeing them today.
Yeah, and so, maybe this was their opportunity. I mean, we're day 4 into this. Maybe they started to kind of realize that we can ask questions, or, we theorized too. They probably had questions from the very beginning. So there were probably things that they were maybe hesitant to ask. Maybe we'll hear from them, the jury, though, after the case. But, to her credit, that was an opportunity. And I think maybe resonated with a couple of jurors that it did seem rather quick, maybe even rushed in the investigation. But again, nobody was injured. And I don't think if there was a threat to the public, they would have, kind of moved the investigation along. But also, as we look at the bigger picture here, had they any idea that this case was involved in a much bigger saga, then I'm sure things would have been.
Yeah, hindsight is 20/20. But let's take a look at that section of cross-exam by Lori Daybell.
So, is it not in your protocol to preserve evidence?
It's in our protocol to preserve evidence,
but not in this case.
In this case, I made the decision not to maintain custody of that Tesla.
So, without this evidence available, how would my experts be able to test for trajectory?
We couldn't test for trajectory with what we had. If it was here today, it's possible that you guys could test for trajectory with the advancements in technology. Again, not being somebody who is trained or certified in any type of trajectory training, I don't know how that process would even look, but we simply don't have the vehicle today as we're discussing this.
Okay, now Trina K redirected testimony to what needed to be the focus for the jury, and that's why redirect is so important, because we mentioned the trajectory of the shooting and how it's just not clear where the Tesla was exactly when Brandon was shot at, exactly where the Jeep was, and maybe where it's parked, but height, so many different things, angles, why does it necessarily matter? Trina basically says this is a shooting. Brandon is not thinking of where to mark, coordinates for his Tesla. So it's a lot there. Maybe, yeah, like you said, Lori's trying to cast out. She's trying to do her best, but shooting is a shooting. And now Ryan Pillar's testimony is finally over. The lead case agent on this story here regarding Brandon Boudreaux, but we had another twist. It was Idaho authorities. It was Ray Hermosillo taking the stand for about 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, this is the detective who I think was most closely related to at least the Idaho case, but the case overall because of what they uncovered, but ultimately what they discovered, in June of 2020. So he has been involved in all of the trials in some capacity. He did not testify in the last trial, but he was here. Mm-hmm. You guys saw him down at the court. Very interested to see him follow this case and how connected he is. And then, of course, we know that he is connected to different cases in this saga, right? There's a lot of overlap in the evidence. And so his testimony, I think, was really crucial to the state's argument here. He had obviously direct knowledge of all of this. We're seeing he explained how when Arizona authorities, Gilbert, contacted him about locating the Jeep, he had the duty of going in and kind of surveying this, townhome development community where Lori, Chad, Alex, and then, of course, Melanie were staying. And he explained his process of locating the homes, staking it out. You saw pictures there, surveillance pictures that he took of Lori going in and out, establishing this was her place of residence in Rexburg at the time. And then again, going into more detail about the search for the Jeep, right? Because we learned that's really where he was contacted by Gilbert police at that time. Hey, we have this woman, Lori Vallow, Alex Cox. We have this Jeep. We're trying to find the Jeep. Can you help us? And then that's part of what he explained at the beginning of his testimony.
We talked about this yesterday. We sort of previewed, foreshadowed Ray Hermosillo coming to take the stand and how much knowledge he has.
Yeah,
and
lot.
We asked the people watching in our poll, would this cause Lori Daybell to open the door to these prior murder convictions? Mm-hmm. The answer is no. And whether she got information or advice from her advisory council, that would be interesting to know. But yeah. Ray Hermosillo is one of this small group, small police department in Rexburg, instrumental in really digging into the whereabouts of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, executing a search warrant, trying to find out what was going on because things weren't making sense, weren't lining up. Lori was lying at the time about where JJ was, saying he was back in Arizona with Melanie Gibb, her best friend. And I think Alex Cox had told authorities, Alex told them that he was with Kay Woodcock in Louisiana. Right. There were multiple stories that didn't make sense. Chad Daybell was there at that, door knock, and Chad Daybell said he didn't know Lori at all. At that point, when they were contacted, he was married. To Lori Daybell and his wife. He had murdered his wife, Tammy Daybell, just a month prior. So Ray has so much context to it, and also walking the fine line and not giving all that away to the jury that's not supposed to know these details about J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, Charles Vallow. I mean, we were just looking at surveillance images of Lori going into this town home. That's just a couple of months after she left Chandler for good, after she had conspired with her brother to shoot and kill Charles Vallow while she was having an affair with Chad Daybell. This, according to what we know from the Idaho trials, was was the doorway for her to start her new life without kids, without this old marriage, and to be with this so-called doomsday prophet, is they thought that they were gods ready for the end of the world. Now, with that said, Ray Hermosillo, back to this Jeep, doing surveillance on it, and some, I guess, what people will call suspect things when you don't care about your Jeep being taken by anybody or recovered and seized by police. Let's listen to that exchange with Trina K.
Did you attempt to contact Lori Vallow to let her know you took the Jeep?
We did several times that day. We made attempts to go over and knock on the door to let Miss Vallow know that we had her Jeep in case they wondered if it was stolen or impounded. And we were unable at any time to make contact with Miss Vallow, and nobody had called the police department stating their Jeep was missing either.
So you never received a call from Lori Vallow to report her Jeep stolen?
No,
Never got a call from Alex Cox saying a Jeep was stolen?
no.
So nobody cares that the Jeep is gone. And at this time, as we were talking about earlier, is the time frame mid-November, early November, Lori's in Kauai getting married to Chad.
Yeah, and if you're the jury in that box, you're listening to that. Look, it's not as damning as other testimony in any of these other cases, but you have to wonder, like, if your vehicle is missing, the first thing you're probably going to look at and go, okay, is there a tow company number? Like, did my car get towed? Maybe it got stolen. I need to contact police. I want to find my Jeep.
There's value to it.
Right.
It's an asset.
And you don't let a couple of days go by and go, yeah, I'm a little bit busy. I'll get to that in a little while. Like, nobody does that. That's not normal. And again, this is an opportunity where if you're there, Lori, sitting at the defense table, like, is that the opportunity to go and make a note? Okay, I need to question him about that. And are you sure I didn't like something? Right.
Yeah.
Because to me, that sticks out. That is not normal behavior for anybody to just lose track of a Jeep and not be interested in knowing where it was. Now, like you said, she was in Hawaii getting married. She didn't know right away. Obviously, I think that maybe authorities had the Jeep, but at the end of the day, they don't know anything about why she's in Hawaii. That's all evidence in another case. To me, that's the point where those are instances where a good defense attorney would try and downplay or damper some of that testimony for the jury, because you have to know that comes off very weird.
At that point, she had to know that police were looking at her, investigating her. When they take your
without
Jeep,
question, yeah.
and they've reached out to you, they want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then late November, and it lines up to where they take the Jeep, and then they go visit her at her apartment late November. They had just told you that same day that they took the Jeep
Right.
several times. And it's like the first time they ever met in person, November 26, 2019. The next day is the search warrant. They're long gone. And they return back to, they leave, Idaho again. So it was all very suspicious at the time. We backtracked, though, to October and the surveillance video at the Rexburg storage unit. This is clear-cut investigating by police, what they call good police work. Go into the home after executing the search warrant. You find this agreement with a business for a Rexburg storage unit. You go to that storage unit. You subpoena or whatnot, search warrant for the surveillance videos October 1st, October 2nd, October 3rd.
Right.
And what do they see? They see video of Lori and Chad moving what looks to be a back seat, what looks to be a tire, and that's connected to the Jeep Wrangler. That's the suspect vehicle. And then also that's happening the same day of the shooting. And we know that license plate readers capture the Jeep with that license plate with no rear tire.
So, there was a lot made, obviously, kind of these October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, right? And so if you're the jury, you got to kind of keep notes, keep track of all of this. We know the shooting was, October 2nd, right? So then you have this video, October 2nd. From your experience, you can get from Phoenix to Idaho in one day. Like, it's a long trip, but you can do it. This is where taking notes is very important as a juror, obviously. But these 3 days are really crucial to this case. This video was really important because you could call the manager of a storage unit to the stand, have him describe, yeah, Lori came in one day, rented it, and then we saw them the day later, coming in and unloading some stuff, blah, blah, blah. But you have the video. The video speaks volumes, even though you look at it and you're like, oh, it doesn't show much other than they're removing a tire in a backseat of a Jeep. But you've already established why removing the back seat and why the tire not being on the back of the Jeep is so important to this case. Why would somebody take the back seat out of a Jeep? Why is the tinting so important? I mean, these are all the elements that have been presented up until this point. And then today you show that video from different angles, by the way. It wasn't just some grainy footage, 500 yards away. And you're like, I can't really tell who that is. Like, it's obvious at that point. You've got a clear look at the vehicle, the license plate. Now you could argue that the outlines of the individuals is not great, but way better than if you didn't have the video and you just had witness testimony of seeing this vehicle and these people there. I think for the jury, it holds more weight seeing it on camera in that capacity, and then having Trina interview Hermosillo about it, and he provides even more detail about what we're seeing and why it's so important to this early October timeframe.
October 3rd, just as important, Alex Cox is back. He takes that tire back out of the storage unit, takes the back seat out, and we know through the prosecution's argument, it's just for him to have a better shot on October 2nd. Brandon survived. He was not hit, but that was the whole point, according to the prosecution, of moving those pieces from that vehicle. Let's listen to Trina Kay ask Hermosillo about this storage unit.
The previous day, we'd seen Chad Daybell rolling the tire in. Here we see Alex Cox carrying it out.
Correct.
Short and sweet right there. And the bottom line is that this surveillance was being done since early November, but being able to get that storage unit video, crucial. And there's also documentation of Lori opening up that storage unit, registering for it. Yeah. And she was there in September. We know that J.J. Vallow's belongings were there. Tylee Ryan's belongings were there. They were murdered in September. The last time that Tylee Ryan was seen, September 8th, 2019, she's believed to be killed, buried in the ground September 9th. J.J. Vallow, last time he was seen, September 2nd, 2019, believed to be killed overnight or into the hours of September 23rd, 2019, both found on the Daybell property, and cell phone data of Alex Cox locating them there, basically Alex Cox's device on that property.
So go back to the tire, for instance. Okay, so, if you're, again, defense attorney, you could make an argument that it's not uncommon for people to remove a tire from a Jeep, and it's not uncommon for them to put the tire back on. What's unusual is that they remove a tire from the back of a Jeep, then drive across 3 states essentially, and then come back, put the tire back on. You would think you'd want the extra tire on your Jeep in case something happened. But again, that is to me, another glaring example of why Lori representing herself is so bad, because this is another opportunity in cross-examination of Hermosillo where you could kind of dig in that and again downplay what Trina just showed. I mean, you could have kind of buffered that whole tire part of it, and maybe the jury goes, oh, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense, and they don't obsess over that video. But again, just the inexperience of it, like you said, there's so much more evidence that has not been presented in this case, rightfully so, because of the crossover with the other convictions. But man, I just, this is, if you're ever going back and doing kind of a one-on-one on how not to defend yourself, another prime example about not being able to take a note down and say, in my cross, I'm going to do this, this, this. Maybe there was another reason why she didn't, cross Hermosillo that we don't know about, but another missed opportunity for Lori there.
There's so much evidence that Hermosillo is able to bring to the table with his testimony. I mean, you see the photos of the rifles found in Alex Cox's garage, the scope, just, heavy-duty firearms that, not everyone has in their garage. Yeah. Some people do, but I mean, with the context and the circumstances surrounding this case, the jury's probably looking at this and saying, whoa, now they see the Jeep suspect vehicle in their minds. Now they see Brandon Boudreaux fearing for his his life on body camera video, or they, just picture him and what he was saying, and the Tesla, the bullet hole, and all of that. It's clear that he is a gun owner. And the Google searches, the Homer J. Maximus Gmail account for long-range shooting, ballistic charges, trajectory calculators, really like scientific terms for shooting, like in the weeds of it all, firearms, searching for a man shot in Gilbert, maps for Dan's window tinting, the map to the Phelps Road address where Brandon Boudreaux was staying. I mean, it's all there under one Google account. Technology is just crazy how much it captures in this wide net of things. The jury has heard this. Lori Daybell does not have one cross-examined question.
Yeah, well, here's another opportunity. Okay, fine. Establish that Alex loved shooting guns. Okay, so he has weapons. He has lots of ammo. Is it weird that his apartment is empty? Okay, yeah, kind of. But, people keep guns in their garage all the time. It's not illegal to have all these weapons.
And it's not her guns.
It's right. It's not my guns. Alex loved to hunt. Alex
so there's an example.
Right. And if you're a shooter, of course you're going to shoot. You're going to search where to shoot, bullet drop, things like that. Is the timing of it bad because he's doing so close to the shooting attempt, or the shooting at Brandon? Okay, yeah. But again, a good defense attorney argues that it's not uncommon what he did, right? A good defense attorney would say, yeah, most gun owners, they search for gun stuff all the time. They, of course they have multiple weapons and scopes and things like that. We heard about the residue and the DNA and all that stuff that was tested.
Also found in the Jeep. Yeah.
Right. But if this jury, any of these jurors have a short-term memory, they're focused on what they just saw. And you just got 2 hours of damning testimony from a detective in Idaho. You could have very easily, again, like I said, dampened it a little bit with just little questions like that. Like, hey, is it uncommon for gun owners to search about gun ranges? Is it uncommon for gun owners to have their weapons in? It's just, to me, it's textbook defense attorney 101. And I'm sure our panel would agree that there's an opportunity, even if you don't go anywhere with your questioning, you at least cast some sort of doubt that whatever Alex was doing is not out of the norm, especially for a guy his age, in Idaho, right? And anywhere really.
Eastern Idaho.
Yeah, I mean,
from Arizona.
Arizona
who always had an affinity for guns. But if you're Trina K, you say objection, speculation. Maybe even though Hermosillo is probably an expert on firearms, being that he's in law enforcement. But if Lori would have asked, you conducted a search warrant at my townhome.
Did you find?
You said
weapons?
You found,
Yeah.
clothes or closets that were empty. You found other things. You found this agreement for the rental storage unit. Did you find firearms in my garage? Things like that. There's definitely opportunity. We can't wait to talk to the panel about it. But yeah, very surprised that there was no choice to do cross-exam with him. But also, now I'm not really surprised. I was shocked in the moment, but Hermosillo just has so much information. So with that said, we're heading into what's possibly closing arguments tomorrow afternoon. One more very key witness for the prosecution. And then the question, does Lori Daybell have anyone to testify for her on her behalf as far as a witness that she intends to call? I doubt it. We haven't seen one in the last trial, but you never know. This could be the Hail Mary. Is it her testifying on her own behalf? If things go as we foresee them, as far as the pattern is, closing arguments could be tomorrow afternoon. For now, make sure you hit the like button, hit the bell for notifications, and subscribe. See you tomorrow on The Record.